Hello and welcome. In this video, we will go through how to synchronize data between the Infor Data Lake and the Azure SQL Server. Many customers have already their reporting tool into the cloud and they want to read the data from the data lake to be used in their existing report that read data from an Azure SQL. For this example, we will use Infor Ion API, Enterprise Connector, Data Flow, Connection Point, Azure Function, and Azure SQL. In the description below, you can find the link for the Microsoft product and the link to the Infor documentation. This is the diagram flow that describes the integration between Data Lake and the Azure SQL. The dotted box on the right side is the ingestion part into the data lake from a local DB using Ion. The list below describes the sorted component involved in the integration. Let's see them one by one. The first component we want to check is the SQL Server. To do this, connect to the Azure portal and create a new Azure SQL database. In our case, we have already an instance of the DB and we have also an empty table, humans. The second component we want to check is the Azure function that contains the code for reading the data from the data lake and writing it into the Azure SQL. To do that, the Azure function uses the Ion API. To ingest the data from a local DB to a data lake, we need an enterprise connector that is usually installed on the same server where we have the local DB or close to it. Let's move now to the InfoOS and let's check and test the DB connection point that we use to read the data from the local table to ingest into the data lake. To do this, click the application switcher and select the icon desk. Then expand the Connect menu and select the connection point. From the list, choose the DB connection point we have created for this example. Select the scenario and click the Edit button. Check the result below. Now we check the data flow, selecting the data flow option from the menu on the left, and we click on our data flow, controlling that everything has been set correctly. Once everything is okay, we activate the data flow, doing this anytime a new record is created in the local database. This record will be read by the DB connection point that will send the JSON message to the data lake. On the Azure portal, we have to activate the Azure function to start to pull the data from the database. From the home page, click on the first Azure function in the list and click the Start button. There is a scheduler that triggers the function every 5 minutes and reads the data from the data lake that have arrived in the last 5 minutes. So we don't load every time the full content, but just the delta as expected. To see the result of the elaboration of the function, click on the function option on the left. Click on the function name and then on the code plus test. On the bottom, we have the log section. To see the delta arriving in Azure SQL, let's see first the status of the local DB and the Azure DB. So let's connect to the local server, and from the SQL Management Studio, let's query the local table to see how many records we have on it. Let's repeat the same action. but this time on the Azure SQL. So from the Azure portal and the SQL, we run the query to check how many records we have on it. Before proceeding to insert the record on a local DB, let's have a look how many records we have on the data lake. In order to do that, we go to the Data Fabric and we select Data Lake, Compass, and we query the object that we should receive in our local DB. No data in Data Lake. Now that we have checked the status of both DBs, we are going to insert some new records in the local DB. And after a while, we will check that these records arrive in the Azure SQL after passing from the data lake. If we check an atlas now, we see that the data are arrived. These prove that the insertion of the data from the local DB has been sent to the data lake. Making a query on Compass, we can see that the records have arrived into the data lake. Now let's see if we can see the record in Azure SQL. From the log of the function, we can see that the function was able to read the data using the API. Let's have a look now to the database. Let's run the query now in the Azure SQL. And we can see that we have the data. This concludes the demo. For additional video, please subscribe to this channel. And for any questions, please leave a message in the description below.